recently, Willie from Arcade USA surprised me with this cool retro handheld console Atari version. This originally came from the UK last year, late in 2018. I believe the price was £35. You can buy this in America on Amazon. When I checked today, it was $33. Comes in a nice box, shows you some of the games. Let's open it up and let's check this bad boy out. So here you go. You can see the system itself, and I really like the design. It really calls back to the Atari 2600. It looks like it could have been a baby from the Atari 2600. You have a wood grain kind of finish here. You actually have grooves in here to replicate what the system did. More wood grain. It runs on 4 AA batteries. There's your compartment. Now on the top, you can see you have an on-off switch, a headphone jack, AV out, which it does not come with a cable, but if you have the correct cable, you can connect this to a TV. Not entirely sure if it will give you problems in America. My guess is because it's modern, it won't. But, you know, back in the day, if it was a PAL game, you needed to have a PAL TV. And these might be PAL versions on here, not sure. So, and then a volume control. So let's go ahead and let's look more closely at the button. So we got a kind of a disc joypad, if you will, instead of a traditional D-pad. A select button up here. 2 fire buttons. They're both the same thing. And then a start button, and we're going fuzzy for a second. One thing that you may notice that this does not have is, one, it doesn't have difficulty switches. So unfortunately, you cannot change the difficulty switches for any of the games included in this system if they use them. Not every game uses the difficulty switches, so it's not always a big deal. Also, there is no SD card slot, so you cannot add any ROMs that you assumingly legally own to this. So you get just the 50 games in the system. Let's turn it on. So the on-off switch is up here. Little light comes on, and there we go. We have it. The screen is pretty small. It is a rather tiny screen. Just to give you an idea of scale, here is a cartridge of ET. And there's the screen. So it's almost the size of the picture on the ET cartridge. Here is an SD card, and there's the screen. So this is a tiny screen. So let's go ahead and get a little bit closer. So you press up and down to scroll through whatever games are on the menu right here. To go between the 10 pages, you have to push left and right. And some of the box art has kind of a weird look to it. The screen is incredibly bright. It does look nice. Some of the box art looks off. I'm not sure why. So let's go through the games real quickly. So you have 3D Tic-Tac-Toe, Adventure, Air Sea Battle, Asteroids, Blackjack, which is a paddle game. There's quite a few paddle games on this system, which usually they don't control that well, honestly. It would have been better if they didn't include them. Blackjack's okay. Centipede, Casino, Canyon Bomber, Breakout, another paddle game, Bowling. We have Circus Atari, another paddle game, Crystal Castles, Demons to Diamonds, Desert Falcon, Dodge 'em, Haunted House, Gravatar, Golf, Fun with Numbers, also known as Basic Math, Double Dunk, Home Run, Human Cannonball, Maze Craze, Millipede, Miniature Golf, Quadron. Now, I will tell you right now, in the Atari cartridge, it would say the word Quadron before the stage begins. Here it is a garbled mess. It does not sound good at all. Video Olympics, which this is like basically versions of Pongs, but most of the games here are 2-player games. So you could play Pong against a computer, but it was meant to be a paddle. It doesn't control well, basically a throwaway title. Off the Wall, Night Driver, another paddle game that doesn't control that well. Missile Command, Radar Lock, Real Sports Football, Real Sports Tennis, Real Sports Volleyball, an underrated game in my opinion. Sprint Master, Submarine Commander, Street Race, another game that's meant more for 2 players. Stellar Track, Steeplechase, Super Football, Super Baseball, Super Breakout. We have the Sword Quest Trilogy, Yar's Revenge, Video, Pinball, Chess, Checkers, and Tempest, which is like a prototype game, and it's not necessarily that good. So let's go ahead and play one of these games. Let's play Haunted House, because I want to show you one of the problems this system has. So let's go ahead. I skipped by it. There it is. So I have to hit the start button, or actually I just hit a fire button. And here we are. And you have to hit, now you can hit the select to go through game variations, and start to start your game. And the sounds in the game is off. And this game has a problem when it comes to flickering. As you can see, my guy, he's supposed to be surrounded by the light of a match, but it's doing like this wave thing. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot on this thing, even to the point where you can't see certain things. You see, the way the original Atari worked is occasionally, to fit more objects on the screen, they would flicker between objects. So you might see, let's say, 4 objects on the screen, but at any one time, it'd be flickering between the 2 objects. And on most TVs, that's not a problem. But here, what happens is things tend to disappear. And especially in a game like Haunted House, you can't even see sometimes the objects or enemies that are supposed to be picked up, because instead of flickering between the 2, it kind of just chooses one, and it has this weird wave thing going on. And when the screen flashes in several of the games, not every game, but in several of the games, when the screen will flash, it will actually have this wave effect instead of a flashing effect. It's very, very odd. Now, if you want to get out of a game and go back to the menu, you have to hit start and select at the same time. So let's do that. And let's go play some Crystal Castles so I can show you more of what's going on with this system, because this flickering issue, it affects some of the games. So let's go ahead. And I don't know if you can hear it, but the sound is just off. And as you can see, instead of the enemies flickering, they disappear. So you can run into an invisible enemy not realizing he's there. And it's just really kind of obnoxious that this happens in some of these games, that things, they just disappear. Like, can you tell right now that there's supposed to be 3 enemies on screen? Because they're missing. Okay, let me show you one more example. We'll play Super Football. This is a game I reviewed recently. And it's actually a really good football game once you get used to it. So let's get into this game. I'm going to have to actually get the game started. Now, some of the sound issues, possibly because these are based on the PAL versions, which would have run at a different speed, but I'm not sure. And as you can see, even my own player disappeared for a second. So it's just crazy. Instead of the flickering, which I guess that's a good thing that there's no flickering, instead of the flickering, we don't even have a player showing up. We have players that disappear. They just go away, and it's very annoying. Now, that's not to say that all these games are bad and not playable. The system actually controls very well. It does, you know, this little disc and the buttons and the size. I think the design of the system itself physically is well done. I like it. I just wish we didn't have these problems. Let's play one of the games that it really advertises, Centipede. And you'll even see at times, parts of the Centipede just flat out disappear for moments, and some of the enemies do, and that's a bummer. Is it playable? Absolutely, it's playable, but it's just adding to the challenge that shouldn't be there. And if you're watching, you can see parts of the Centipede just kind of flickering away, and that's it. Now, this is not every game. Not every game requires this flickering, so some games control better than others. But for a game like Centipede, you're going to have moments where the Centipede disappears, and that's really a problem in the later levels when you're surrounded by the segments. Okay, let's try one more. Let's see. So a game like golf and bowling, let's play bowling for a second. Bowling works pretty well, right? So we'll just start a game. I won't even bother setting it. And see, that's just fine. A game like bowling, this works perfectly fine. It's not a big problem. The sound's a little off. Some might have more issues than others, and some people, you know, it may not bug them as much. And some games I don't think are as bad as other games. But if you just want to play a game of bowling, this is not a terrible option, right? So you could just plug it in or put in the batteries, pull it out of your pocket. It's kind of big for, you know, a pocket device, even though the screen is strong. But, you know, a game like that, not too bad. Let's try Asteroids, and then we'll end the review. 1981, we'll just do the basic game. And Asteroids, for some reason, when I played it, it didn't really have the issues with the disappearing objects, which is, you know, interesting because it used, you know, a bank switching, kind of a flicker effect, but for some reason it didn't really bother it as much. So a game like Asteroids on here plays rather well. So this plays just fine. Sounds okay. Does a decent job. And, you know, and that's that. So there you go. This is the Blaze Atari Retro Handheld console. Let's not zoom out. Let's zoom in or zoom out. You know, overall, this is a pretty cool looking device. I like the design. I like the way it feels and the way it looks. And I also kind of like how you can put it back in its box, except you kind of have to press down this D-pad in order to fit it in. At least I did, because when you get it, there's a sticker that holds down the buttons and D-pad, and it doesn't quite fit unless you hold it down. But overall, I'm going to say if you like the look of it and you might use it as a desk decoration or whatever, this might not be a bad option. But unfortunately, some of the games are really plagued. You have several paddle games. I don't know why they didn't take out some of the paddle games and put in, I don't know, like a game like Secret Quest or even Hangman, which would have been better suited for a portable system. I don't know why they had to put in paddle games that don't work nearly as well with a little D-pad joystick thing. So that's kind of a head scratcher. It's missing, you know, some third-party games. Like, it would have been great if River Raid and Pitfall were on here by Activision. That would have been cool. Maybe even some recent homebrews like we've seen in the Flashback Portable. But, you know, what it is, I mean, $33 right now on Amazon. It's not a terrible price, and it's a pretty cool thing to have if you're a big Atari fan. So I'm kind of meh on it, honestly. I like it. I think it's kind of a cool thing to have. I was thrilled to get this from Willie from Arcade USA, and I'm still thrilled to have it. But if you're just deciding how to spend your money, I don't know. It's really kind of iffy. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you next time on the next No Swear Gamer video.